notifications, loud noises, silence. You're burned out, but you haven't built anything long enough to be burned out. You're not exhausted from effort, you're exhausted from input, scrolling, comparing, consuming, switching, reacting. Your brain is in a sprint for its life, but your life is standing still. And the modern world has told you that stimulation is the same as progress, but it isn't. And that confusion is costing you your momentum. And when we understand the psychology behind this, your brain isn't meant to consume this much media. It's too much stimulation, too many notifications, too many reels, too much media, too much news. Every headline, every message is this tiny dopamine spike stimulating the brain. Neuroscientist Anna Limpic, she talks about this in a novel called Dopamine Nation, where the brain consumes all levels of dopamine, all levels of stimulation, and it evaluates the consumption. And with higher evaluations of consumption, sensitivity levels drop in the brain, meaning that while yes, you do get an initial hit, the brain auto adjusts, lowering sensitivity to this so that you're not overwhelmed in your stimulus. I.e., the more stimulation you feel, the less you are rewarded. So by nature of pattern, what ends up happening? Well, you see, you end up consuming some, feel a certain level of dopamine, consume more, less dopamine, more. And this chase is continuously wired to keep you active on these platforms. High stimulation lowers your baseline motivation, meaning that you are left feeling tired after having done nothing. And productivity isn't about attention, it's about unstimulated interruption. You sit there checking your phone 150 times a day, half reading notifications, half listening to news, and half consumption, meaning that ultimately, not only are you just entertaining yourself, but that the level of depth that you think you're consuming is not nearly as deep as it needs for there to be a level of satisfaction. So while yes, back in the old days, you could sit there and flip through books and read news articles and actually fully consume media, with our high stimulated population, we're looking at a situation where people are half consuming substance, meaning that they're not getting themselves in a level of depth intellectually to actually consume and understand the things that they're watching. So while some people say, oh, well, yeah, this is actually really good for me, X, Y, and Z, the truth of the matter is you're not going deep enough to even fully understand the topic, not only leaving you not able to process the information fully, but you can't even talk about it because you don't really know what you're looking at. Now, this bleeds into a funny topic I try not to rub into people's faces, but it is something that I subscribe to as a belief. When we're looking at people and what they do with their lives, I tend to find that people that have the highest level of output not only have the most time for me, but the most time for anyone who they deem necessary of their time. That's not because they have more time, it's because they have less interruption. When we're looking at a world where someone has less interruption, not only are they able to go deeper in what they are looking to do in their life, but they're also able to get more done. And you'll notice someone who's not as developed in this level of strategy, because one of the things that really sits with them weird is silence, because silence feels odd. If you're constantly stimulated and then hey, you're not going to like that feeling because you're used to constantly being attacked with the next level of stimulant. A popular author and public speaker, Jordan Peterson, talks about this in I think it's the 12 Rules for Life. He says that if you just sit down with yourself in silence and sit on your bed, you will soonly discover what it is that you need to do and the things you need to cut. When you sit there in silence, what ends up happening is the messages that your subconscious, God, people in your life that have been talking to you are trying to penetrate into your mentality, you start to realize. Because when you sit down with yourself and you're just sitting in silence and you're thinking through your life, you end up coming to conclusions a lot quicker than when you're trying to focus on something with a huge rock band behind you trying to entertain you constantly. Now, what do we get from high levels of distraction? Well, you're going to see a population that by and large is going to have higher levels of depression, anxiety, and inability to focus. Those three combined are how you drain a society into the point where not only can no productivity be done, but that the productivity that they are placed in, they are stuck at. Because if someone is doing a job, let's say they're putting together little toys on a conveyor belt, and they're constantly working at this, and then they go home and they're distracted, well, I have no time for my subconscious or my conscious mind to think about, hey, how can I advance? Can I take this somewhere else? Can I start my own business? Can I move up? Can I get into management roles? You don't get on time early, you get there late, you're deprived of your sleep, you're run on stimulants like caffeine and nicotine to keep going, and then you're promoted by movies like The Wolf of Wall Street or quick Instagram reels to think, well, I'm locked in, guys, I'm grinding. And that isn't the truth of the reality. Yeah, you're just overstimulated and run yourself to the bone on things that don't really produce much in your life. So I'd reconsider that. Now, what does that mean as a substitute? Because it's like, yeah, Ken, that's great, but how do I replace that in my life? Let's dig into it. One of my first managers in my professional career said you have to slow down to speed up. They seem like they go against each other, but they really don't, and I'll explain why. When we slow down, we start to realize the errors that we're making. That's the number one thing. Because the truth of the matter is when you're running a million miles an hour, while you might be going from A to B, you're probably in a little bit of a zigzag line and you're trying to figure out what to do. And you kind of figured out what works, but just because you figured out what works doesn't mean that's the best way for it to work. I can jam two Legos together. That doesn't mean that's how the creator designed them to be put. Number two for this principle of slowing down to speed up is going to be the concept that not only do, yes, you realize the distractions, but two, you get better at doing it. When you end up looking at life and you say, okay, I need to go from here to here, and you try to figure out the path that gets you there, if you're just working on getting there and not working on planning out any level of strategy in your life, well, you're going to find one way and you're going to stick to it. The brain very quickly short circuits, pattern recognizes, and stores away information that you already know. The other step to that would be that if you slow down, not only can you eliminate distractions, by nature, you're also going to get better at doing the things that you're doing, especially daily-day activities. At this point of the conversation, we've already lowered the stimulant level that your brain expects by cutting things like instant dopamine from media consumption, news consumption, loud music all the time, focused on things like caffeine, nicotine. I'm a consumer of both of those things daily, but I limit it and I'm very careful with my consumption. Maybe that's coping, I don't know. But I am very careful to make time for silence. And at a spiritual level, you're also going to find that slowing down also enables you to actually talk to the God of the universe, Jesus Christ, and have a relationship with him. When we're looking through the life of Jesus Christ, we tend to find, yes, he did a lot in his 33 years, but he also had extensive sense of time, often going up to a month in certain durations, where he sat in silence and prayed to God, specifically after he got baptized by John the Baptist, but also in times where we see the disciples wake up, they don't know where Jesus is, and he is out reflecting with the Father. So not only is it, yes, it's going to produce your productivity in your professional life, in your spiritual life, which is, in my opinion, exactly what matters, because that's what eternity is about. If you focus on silence and you focus on self-reflection and actually having a relationship with people and having a relationship with Jesus Christ and God, well, hey, you're probably going to be a better person for it. People like to work with better people. Just something else to think about. One of the things you can do very early into this practice is to track yourself. So for some people, it might be 24 hours. For others, it might be 48 hours. You go through, you circle out, let's say the first day would be 24 hours. The next day is going to be another 24 hours. You cut out sleep from there, and then you track what you do in the middle. If you can put these two together and figure out, hey, what is coming on with my life and what I'm doing, you're going to be able to cut out a lot of rot real quick. You can also, for people that have iPhones like myself, you can just go into your settings and see how much screen time you have. I'd probably sit down when you take a look at that, because you would be surprised to see just the amount of time you're draining in those day sections by themselves. Another useful tip that I use, at least in my personal life, is what we call earned stimulant. What this is that, yes, once I do this, then I can have that. There's nothing wrong with eating a bag of candy. It's having 10 bags of candy every night repeatedly. When we use stimulants as excuses, we use stimulants to cope, we tend to find that we lean on those and those become our God. Not a God you want to worship, and not a God that can serve you very well, a pretty poor God at that description itself. When we earn our stimulants instead of using them and leaning on them as a crutch, we feel rewarded, we feel more satisfied, and ultimately, hey, we're going to live a better and healthier life as a whole because of it. Another thing that I would urge people to is to not start your day with input. I would start your day with output. When we start our day reaching for our phone and consuming media, our mind state going into the day is already behind. There's a famous saying that if you win the first hour, you're going to win the next 10 hours. It's very similar when you go into something, especially your days, especially in the week when you're working your 9 to 5 or you're working your 8 to 6, whatever that might look like for you. And you're saying, hey, what can I do with my life? What can I go through and make sure I have a productive day? I feel like I won today so that I wake up tomorrow energized to do it all over again. When we start our day with consumption instead of reflection and output, well, hey, what does that say to our brain? It says, hey, we're in a state to consume, not to produce. In that case, you're going to work after directly consuming media, noise, quick breakfast full of seed oils. On top of that, it also isn't going to bleed well into your day. You go into your day tired, backlogged, and attention span focused on consumption instead of your attention being centered on productivity and actually getting things done. Does that make the capitalist overlords happy? Sure, but it also makes you happy because you end up getting in situations where in 10 years you say, hey, I've worked a very productive life and I did something. Now I'm in this good position. I have more time and I can focus on things, versus saying, oh, well, they're the enemy and just squeeze them for every penny. Well, dude, you've been in the same position for 10 years. Maybe there's a reason why you're not getting promoted. The greatest shift I can say that comes from this is your feeling of energy and the difference between stimulated forced energy and natural producing energy. Early into my career, I was kind of on this track. I'm not above this topic, and we all do it, especially people that work in sales like I have for a while. When you're stuck in forced energy and trying to push the ball forward, and of course, I still have those days sometimes. When you're stuck in this forced energy mindset, you're not able to produce things that actually come from the soul. When you're stuck in a situation like that, productivity is forced at best. When you're in a situation of natural energy production, you actually feel happy. You're getting the sun on your face. You're not consumed by a bunch of toxins in the world. You start to be a magnet, especially politically, professionally, religiously, and socially. You're going to find that people want to hang out with you, not because they feel forced, but because they feel gravitated towards it. They say, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. Hey, this girl knows what she's doing. This person doesn't feel draining to be around. Versus you get around someone who's the opposite. After you shift into a state of being sensitive to those energy levels, you say, oh, I don't really want to be around that. And it's not because they're a bad person. It just drains me, because the energy we have in the world, we feel. When you walk up to someone who's sad, you say, hey, what's going on? It's not because you're a mind reader. It's a pretty innate feeling. You go, oh, I think this person's in a bad mood. Versus someone who, we talked about in the last video with the victim mentality, the video previous to that with your attitude. You walk in and you say, hey, how's your day going? And you can actually look someone in the eyes and say, hey, I'm doing okay. How are you doing? And it feels genuine. That connection, that human connection, is going to take you a lot further than any sort of Red Bull or our white Monster energy drink will ever do. There's two types of rewards in this world, at least to the best of my understanding. You're going to see what we call instant reward and earned reward. One is bad, one is good. I hope you like that little drawing I did there. Ultimately, what we're looking at is a world where instant dopamine, instant reward versus earned dopamine, earned reward. It feels a lot better to earn your M4, to earn your GT3 RS or GT3 RS than it is to have mommy and daddy buy it. And the world knows that. When you look at it, you go, oh, look, mommy and daddy's money. Because everyone knows at an innate level, if you didn't earn it, it's not really yours to keep. Now, does that mean that if mommy and daddy offer you a GT3 RS, should you take it? I would say absolutely. But let's live in a realistic world. A lot of things such as a car, or a lot of things such as, the new phone or a new house or a house on the corner lot with a half acre behind you and super green grass. If you want that, you got to earn it. Not a lot of people are handing it out. And even those people that do have it handed them out to them, you're going to see they're very depressed and they're very unsatisfied, because that level of instant gratification in the aspects of what we would call like social anchors of people's worth, if you just get it handed to you, you can't really value it. So all that to say, earn your dopamine, don't rent it. The brain isn't tired, it's just overstimulated. Reduce the noise, you're going to see your energy comes back. You're not lazy, you're not overloaded, you're not burned out, you're just scattered. Reclaim your depth, reclaim your momentum, and most people won't. They'll just keep numbing themselves until they hit the grave, wondering, hey, why do I feel stuck? But if you want clarity, you want discipline, you want strength, I post media like this all the time against multiple platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X or Twitter, whatever it's called, Threads, and YouTube and YouTube Shorts. So click along, follow. Would love to help you out. I do put a lot of effort into these videos, and I do put a lot of care into what I'm looking to do. I want to help you guys the same way I was helped by a lot of people. So go ahead, click along, follow along, take your momentum, take your energy, and get rid of your distraction. Earn your dopamine, earn your reward. Don't rent it. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.